Look, listen, we got breaking news to discuss in the NBA involving Desmond Bane. Obviously, it was an epic trade that took place today. It's kind of crazy because obviously we smack dead in the middle of the NBA finals, and on this Father's Day, the NBA couldn't leave us high and dry. Desmond Bane, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Orlando Magic, they make headwaves today, ladies and gentlemen, in a blockbuster. We're going to break it all down. Desmond Bane, the Memphis Grizzlies traded Bane to the Orlando Magic for KCP, Cole Anthony, and 4 unprotected first round picks and 1 first round pick swap. Orlando sent Memphis the number 16 pick in the 2025 NBA draft, its 2026 first round pick, which includes swap rights with the Phoenix Suns or Washington Wizards, and its 2028 2030 unprotected first round selections. The pick swap is top two protected in 2029. So this is pretty crazy, to say the least. On this move, I do like Desmond Bane going with Paolo. We're gonna get into it because I believe that Desmond Bane, I know that Desmond Bane is going to open up the floor for Paolo Banchero, ladies and gentlemen. We just got to call it how we see it. Paolo, he needs a guy like this. He needed somebody to open up the floor for him. Obviously, you got Franz Wagner, you got Jalen Suggs. It's a lot of pieces here. We're gonna get to the bench. I really like what's going on, with the Orlando Magic. Me as a New York Knicks fan, I'm very concerned, of the Orlando Magic. Paolo Banchero last season, he put up 25 points per game. And now you're going to put him with a guy like Desmond Bane, who I believe is a sharpshooter. I mean, it was time. And Memphis, we're going to get to Memphis in a second. I mean, let's not jump the gun, but like I said, this man averaged 25 points per game, shooting 45% from the field. And this Paolo, who we're talking about. But at the three, you see a lowly 32%. We all know that can get better. The three-point shooting Orlando Magic is obviously a little shaky. Paolo averages 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Now you're going to give him this guy who's going to create them opening lanes. It's just going to open up a lot more now. You're going to be able to give it to Desmond Bane, and he's going to be able to put the ball in the hole. It's going to be times where the defense is going to shift to Desmond Bane. He's going to be where he's going to require double teams. Now, when we look at this trade package, obviously it's looking like it was a haul. You see the picks. You like what's going on. Obviously this is very reminiscent to me of the Mikal Bridges New York deal. A little different, but a very similar. You have a guy who's never made an All-Star team, who's a really good player. And he's traded like he is a cornerstone of a franchise. And then you got Luka. That's what I'm saying. This kind of looks crazy, because now you got Luka, who is internationally renowned, a superstar. He gets a one pick. It's looking like somebody did a job. We're going to get into that later. Make sure you subscribe to Flight Sports so you don't miss a second, because we're going to open up a can on that. Make no mistake about the situation. Orlando, they are in the Eastern Conference. This team, they feel like they could do it. Everybody right now in the East feeling good. Um, Indiana seems like they're gonna be running things. Boston, they not that heavyweight that we believe and we know that they are. Without Jason Tatum, they are a shell of themselves. They are not that scary juggernaut that we all know and love. Even with Tatum, it's still unhealthy. Porzingis, I don't know about that. But with Tatum being out next year, it seemed like it's going to be a rest year for the Boston Celtics. Some people are predicting them to trade Brown, which I think is a little bit extreme. I don't believe that's going to happen. But I just think it's going to be a year where Boston is not going to be competitive. Where I wouldn't say they're not going to be competitive. They're not going to be at the top. But it still ain't going to be no walk in the park when you roll into Boston. It's not like they're going to be trying to lose, but teams will have that advantage, So next year, you're going to see teams going for it. I believe that this is the first domino when you see Desmond Bane. Who's to say that KD don't come to Toronto or something like that? That's what I'm saying. When you look at the East, it looks wide open. People looking at the East like, yo, we could come here and set up shop. Orlando, now I like the kid Anthony Black, coming off the bench. I know people like they let go of Cole, because Cole Anthony's a young player. Obviously, they drafted Cole Anthony. But you have players who's ready to take that mantle. I think Anthony Black is a kid who is his time. It's time for Black to take his game to the next level. In my humble opinion, we're gonna get into some stuff involving Anthony Black as well. So make sure you subscribe to Flight Sports TV, because I love what's going on with Orlando. Like I said, I'm just concerned for the Knicks. When you got these teams retooling, they getting better. You look at Orlando, they kept knocking at the door. A lot of people think it's a foregone conclusion that the Knicks is just going to walk to the conference finals next year, or even Indiana. Indiana is a team of overachievers. Obviously Rick Carlisle being there, they're not going to be no walk in the park. They're probably going to be in the same position they are right now under Rick Carlisle. So we just going to find out and see next season. But Memphis now, this looks kind of wild. Obviously if you're the Memphis Grizzlies, you get those picks. I think that's something that, it looks like a rebuild move. Because especially when you got KCP, obviously that's a downgrade. You could dump the ball to Bane and he could find his own shot. He was a part of that big three in Memphis, even though they wasn't a really big, strong big three. But when you're talking about him and Jackson and Ja dealing with his injuries and his off the floor issues, we just never got a chance to see that whole thing blossom. But they were very promising at one point. Let's not forget they was the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. But when you get Cole Anthony coming in, you got your replacement at guard. You got a guy who can come in and start for you and give you good productive minutes. So Ja Morant to me is on borrowed time in Memphis. I think if Ja's not healthy, if Ja is acting up off the floor, they got their consolation prize. Cole Anthony can be the starting point guard for the next 10 years, in Memphis. I'm not saying he's going to be an elite point guard for the next 10 years, but he could be. So that's something to think about and something to monitor, that they have a young guard who could start for them if necessary. So, and you've seen what you just got for Bane. If you're the front office, new coach, you might look at, man, if we got 4 for Bane, we probably can get 7 or 8 for Ja. We might be able to get 5 or 6 for Jaren Jackson. Defensive player of the year. What was it? All-star. I mean, there's something to think about. Memphis is a team to watch. I'm going to leave it at that. It's Flight Sports TV. Peace and love. You already know what it is.